Okay, so there are three trigonometric ratios. Okay, we're going to write them out first, and then we're going to describe them, and then I'm going to teach you guys a shortcut way, sort of like a little story. You guys like my stories, right? This is a good one today, about how to remember which is which, okay? So there are three of them. The first one is called sine, but it's not spelled S-I-G-N, like you would think a sine is spelled. It's spelled S-I-N-E. Okay, that's the first one. It's called sine. Now we actually abbreviate it with just the first three letters, S-I-N, which in English class they have told you that word is sin. But in math class that word is actually sine, and you're supposed to pronounce it like sine. So when you say sin, I'll be like, oh, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. So sine, 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 okay? So in math class that says sine. It's just an abbreviation. And what the sine is it's a ratio or a fraction of the opposite side in a triangle over the adjacent side. Oh, I just wrote that totally wrong. Sorry. Stop. Erase. It's not. That's tangent. See? I should be home today. Opposite is correct. The bottom word shouldn't be adjacent. It should be hypotenuse. It's the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Okay? And you're going to have to memorize these, but again, I'm going to show you an easy way to memorize them, okay? The second trig ratio is the cosine. And it's spelled C-O-S-I-N-E, cosine. But we abbreviate it with just the first three letters, C-O-S. And again, it looks like cos, but we actually say cosine for every time we see it. And what the cosine is it's a ratio of the adjacent side over the hypotenuse again. Now, so far you're like, I don't know what opposite is, I don't know what adjacent is, I know what a hypotenuse is. But opposite and adjacent, we're not so sure about those yet. I'm going to describe them in a second, okay? The last one is the tangent ratio. T-A-N-G-E-N-T, tangent. But again, we abbreviate it with just the first three letters. And that represents the opposite side over the adjacent. Okay, so we're supposed to memorize this. It's kind of confusing. Let's draw a picture in the triangle and have it describe it for us, okay? So if I look down here, I'm going to draw a right triangle. Again, this only works for right triangles. There's my right angle, okay? I call this angle A, B, C. So what is this opposite and adjacent that I'm talking about? That's the big question, right? Well, we obviously know that the one across from the right angle, that side is my hypotenuse. That's not new for us, right? We all know that one. So go ahead and label that one as the hypotenuse. Now, we've talked about the word opposite before, right? What did opposite mean? When it was opposite, it was just, what was the word I used for it? Anyone? Like if I'm opposite from you across a room, what does that mean? We're like across from each other? Yeah? We're not next to each other, right? If you're opposite from me, we're way over there, okay? So opposite just means across from. So if I'm starting at angle A, which side would be opposite? Well, I go straight across. And the side that I hit is this whole side over here, CB. That is the opposite side from angle A. Okay? So the opposite side from angle A is CB. Make sense? What would be the opposite side from angle C? If I was asking you. Well, I would take angle C and I would go straight across and I would hit BA down here. Okay, so the opposite side from angle C would be BA. But again, I just want the opposite side from angle A, which is CB. The other term that we're looking for, right, we've got opposite hypotenuse, is this one, adjacent. Now, we learned about adjacent angles way back at the beginning of the year. Those adjacent angles somewhere. Oh, yeah, they're there, up there. Two angles that touch, right? They were next to each other. They were touching, they were right next to each other. So here, we're going to talk about the adjacent side. It's the one that's right next to it, okay? So adjacent just means next to it. So which side, this one, or this one, is right next to angle A? Well, since the other two are already named, it's got to be this side right here. This side, BA, is right next to or touching angle A. So that's called your adjacent side. So I do a little arrow like this, and that's my adjacent side. Now again, adjacent just means next to. Opposite, I'm going to write over here, it means across. Now some students have a good question. They say, well, isn't the hypotenuse also adjacent to angle A? Because it's right next to it as well. You're right, it is right next to it, but since it's already named the hypotenuse, it can't be also named the adjacent. Okay, you can only give one name to each side. Okay, so for example, when I'm looking here to do like the sine, the cosine, or the tangent, right? Let's use our information up here. The sine of angle A. Now, what did it tell us? It told us it was the opposite over the hypotenuse. And so we're going to start to abbreviate these. And I'll show you this at the bottom, that the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So here, if I'm looking for the opposite over the hypotenuse, well, which side is opposite? Go across. It's this whole side here, CB. And which side is the hypotenuse? It's the whole hypotenuse, CA. So in a problem, like we'll do at the bottom when we do these examples, what's going to happen is you're going to have numbers for these sides. 3, 7, 2, whatever they are. And you're going to plug in the numbers here instead of CB and CA. Okay? How about cosine of angle A? What would the cosine of angle A be? Well, look up here. The cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So adjacent, and I'm just abbreviating, over hypotenuse. Well, the adjacent is this whole side down here, BA, over the hypotenuse, which is still way over here, which is still CA. And again, I would have numbers to plug in for those. Let's do the last one, which is tangent. Tangent is the opposite over the adjacent side. And so it would be opposite over adjacent. Well, which one was opposite? CB. And adjacent was BA. Okay. And again, I would just plug in numbers. Now you have to be a little careful about which angle they're talking about, because all of these had the A here. That meant I started with angle A. Sometimes, though, they're going to have a C, which means I would start with C. And so then opposite would be down here, and adjacent would be over here. Okay, so it would be a little different. Okay, so how in the world am I going to remember this? Right, this is the big issue. Well, there's a little story to help you remember it. And the story goes way back in time. Have you guys, you remember the story about Pocahontas? Pocahontas, remember Pocahontas, right? Who was she? It was like a Disney movie, right? Pocahontas. She was a Native American, that's the right word, right? Princess, yeah. She was beautiful, and what's the song that goes with it? All the colors of that one, right? So Pocahontas, she was great. Everyone knows all about Pocahontas. She was like famous. She fell in love with this white guy, whatever. Very Disney glorified. Okay, so that was Pocahontas. But what people don't know is they never heard about her sister. She had a sister. Did you guys know this? No, you didn't know this, right? Nobody knows about her sister. She had a sister, but nobody really talked about her sister. Her sister's name was Sokotoa. Never heard of it? Sokotoa? Ever heard of her? No? Nobody's heard of Sokotoa. See, I'm telling you, nobody hears about her. Why did no one hear about her? Well, because she wasn't as beautiful as Pocahontas. She wasn't really as popular as Pocahontas, right? She didn't fall in love with this white boy and go to America like Pocahontas, or lived in America. I don't know. What's the story? She went to England. Did she go to England? And then she came back or something? Yeah, right? Something like that. You know, her sister didn't do any of that. Her sister was brilliant. She was a genius, but she wasn't very cute. Like, she wasn't that attractive. Like, no, it just wasn't happening. She was kind of in the awkward stage. She had the braces, the glasses. She was a little chunky. You know, that's just how it goes, right? That's how life is. Sometimes this is what happens. But the thing is, she was brilliant. And she was a mathematician. Brilliant. Just kind of like me when I was in high school. I had the braces, the glasses, a little chunky. Right? It was life. Okay? It wasn't very popular. But I was really smart. Okay, so I'm kind of like SoKoToa, which is why I like her so much. She and I were the same. And she would do these amazing math formulas, and she would figure out all these things about triangles. Like back in the day, they didn't have calculators, they didn't have any of this stuff. And so she figured out all this stuff about these ratios and all these things. And the coolest thing, what they figured out from her, is that her name, SoKoToa, let me spell it for you guys. Here it is. SoKoToa. You like that? SoHCAHTOA. Now it's really important to spell her name correctly, because look up here. SoHCAHTOA. Her name represented the trigonometric ratios. Pretty cool, huh? So SoKoToa, I think, should be much more famous than Pocahontas, because what did Pocahontas do? She was just like a pretty face. Blah, blah, blah. SoKoToa made all the money. Right? All right, so there's another way to write it. Do you like my story?
Do you like a story?
I should be a storyteller. Is it true?
No.
I don't know. Google
But
it.
you make you believe it. I don't know.
I make you believe it. I know. You don't know if I'm telling the truth or not. SoKoToa. If you write it this way, I think it's even easier to remember. Okay? So if you write it this way, SoHCAHTOA. SoKoToa. SoKoToa. Now, what does that represent? Sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. And if you write this at the top of your paper, it's going to help you to fill in and do all the questions. Okay? So when you're trying to remember this, just remember, here she is. We'll draw our cute little picture. Here's SoKoToa. There's her glasses. She's cute, right? She's got the Indian headdress. Sorry, Native American. She's cute, right? I should be an artist and a storyteller and not a math teacher. All right, so what does this have to do with math? Let's go ahead and try our questions down here.
Wait, did you really come up with this?
Yeah.
That's so smart. Like, I don't think that was
I have a lot of time in my brain to come up with interesting stories. No, it's a true story. Google it. SoKoToa. Tell you all about her. Pocahontas' sister, I swear. All right, here we go. Sine A, cosine A, and tangent A. So here's our triangle, and notice now they gave us numbers for the sides. Okay? So let's try and find the sine of angle A. So again, sine, look back up here at SoKoToa. It's O over H. O stands for opposite over H stands for hypotenuse. So looking at this triangle, I want you, whatever the angle is that they give you, I want you to circle it, because it's going to be easier then to know where you're going. So which side is opposite from angle A? Well, take your circle and go straight across. Which side is opposite? Yeah, give me a number. 3. Done. Hypotenuse. Which side in this picture is the hypotenuse? 5. Straight across from the right angle always. This is my hypotenuse. So this one was opposite. This is hypotenuse. So my answer for the sine of A is 3/5. Done. That's how easy this is. Okay? Let's do the cosine of A. Okay, well, cosine said A over H. A stands for adjacent over hypotenuse. Which side in this picture is adjacent? 4. It's the one that's next to it. This side right here is my adjacent side. So that's 4 over, which side's my hypotenuse? 5. So my answer is 4/5. Let's try the last one, which is tangent. Tangent of angle A. Tangent, here it is, O over A. Opposite over over adjacent. Okay, look at my picture. Which one was opposite? 3. Which one was adjacent? 4. Careful. Right? And we're done. Right? Opposite over adjacent. So you just have to follow SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA and plug them in. Alright? Now this triangle's turned a little bit, but it's still the same idea. So let's go ahead and find sine, cosine, and tangent of angle A is what they're asking for this one. So again, let's find them for angle A in this picture. Here's angle A, sine, cosine, tangent. Go ahead and try them by yourself. Try to find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. Do opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Okay, so if I go opposite, and a lot of times I'll just write those abbreviations like that first so that I know what they are. Tripata, which side is opposite from A? If I go straight across. Give me a number. 16, perfect. So it would be 16. And then Tripata, which one's my hypotenuse? 34, perfect. So this is my hypotenuse, my opposite, and we're good. What about the cosine of angle A? No one's here. Brianna C.
I got 15 over 17.
You reduced it. You're too fast for me. Yes. So you are correct. It's first of all, it was 30 over 34, right? Because 30 was my adjacent, and that's my hypotenuse. And she's exactly right. We should reduce, so we should actually go back to the first one and reduce that as well. So when we reduce this, you got 15 over 17. If I reduce that first one, I get 8 over 17. Okay, so always, always, always reduce. I will take off points if you don't reduce, so use your calculator and reduce. And then how about tangent? Christian.
What?
Tangent. So O over A. No, give me a number. Which one's O? Over 30. And then if we reduce that, divide by 2. 8 over 50. You can do that. Perfect. Okay? All right, turn the page.